only have one big lifting day per week, so I've got to make the most of it. The upper body portion of my weightlifting day is centered around weak points in my calisthenics game or areas of my calisthenics game that I need to make stronger for specific movements. An example of that is these bicep curls. Isolating your biceps and progressively overloading your bicep strength is something that's a little bit more difficult in calisthenics. So using something like a preacher curl is something that is easy to track progress and can isolate the muscle group that you're looking to strengthen up. Now, for the lower body portion of my weightlifting day, it's centered around muscle groups that I need to strengthen up for running, or centered around strengthening up my posterior chain. That's also going to help my calisthenics game out. My name is JD. I'm a 40-year-old hybrid athlete. I use calisthenics, weightlifting, and running as my primary modalities of training. I'm also a personal trainer. So if you're interested in online coaching, information will be in the description box below. But back to the video and back to the topic at hand. Today, I'm going to take you guys through a day in a gym of a heavyweight calisthenics athlete and a heavyweight runner. And as you can see here, the first exercise of the day is bicep curls. And I do these for a few different reasons. Number one, I'm working on that reverse muscle up. And in order to hit that reverse muscle up movement on the gymnastics rings, you need to have enough curling power to pretty much curl your own body weight. I'm not going to say you have to curl, I'm 195 pounds. I wouldn't say I need to curl 195 pounds, but let's just say the end goal for me as far as where I want to take my bicep strength is I want to be able to curl, let's just say 70 to 75% of my power for a 1 rep max. Now, today I got up to 100 pounds for 4 reps, failed on that 5th rep, and then I ended up finishing up with a volume set for 10 reps at 85 pounds. One of the reasons why I love the hybrid approach to training is because of the fact that each modality of training leaves a little bit of something to be desired. There's certain elements of strength that you can't get from weightlifting. So calisthenics picks up the slack. There are certain elements of weightlifting strength that you can't get from calisthenics. So therefore, you have to incorporate some weightlifting into your strength routine. And when it comes down to running, there's certain elements of running that's going to cause stress to your body where you need to compensate and strengthen up part of your lower body, parts of your posterior chain, or just strengthen up your posterior chain in general. That will help you prevent injuries from the wear and tear of the running lifestyle. Now, the next movement that I'm going to be doing in this strength day is a front squat. And I'm a big fan of the front squat for a multitude of reasons. Now, this might be an anecdotal observation, but for myself, for people that I've trained, and for people who I train alongside with, I've always noticed that it's easier to get more depth on a front squat while not needing to hinge like you do on a back squat, especially for taller athletes. Now, even though you can't load up as much weight on a front squat as you can on a back squat, in my opinion, the amount of mind-muscle connection that you can build up on a front squat kind of makes up the difference for the extra weight that you can load up on a back squat. Now, for me, I always feel the squat more in my glutes when I do front squats. I feel it more in my quads. I build up a way better mind muscle connection than what I do with a back squat. And to be completely honest with you, I always notice while back squatting, I tend to feel it in my back more. I don't know, it might just be because of the hinge. It might be because I'm taller. I'm not exactly sure what the deal is, but for me personally, I'm just not a huge fan of the back squat. But at the end of the day, whether you front squat or whether you back squat, doesn't really matter as long as you're building up your glutes, as long as you're building up your quads, as long as you're developing that mind-muscle connection. And one of the reasons why this is so important as a runner, as an athlete, is that you get most of your power from your glutes when it comes down to things like sprinting, when it comes down to things like running. So you want to make sure that you have that stable foundation of power in your glutes. And also when it comes down to your quads, The quads is one of the main muscle groups that's going to protect your knee health. You know, when we're running or even when we're walking a ton, we're putting wear and tear on our knees. So making sure that you have a strong quad game is extremely important. You know, it's funny. In one of my previous videos, I think the title of the video was "Calisthenics Has an Age Problem." And there was somebody in the comment section that said, no, calisthenics has a leg training problem of something of that sort. And, you know, it's kind of ironic because one of the things that I've noticed through my calisthenics journey is that if you're not able to engage your glutes on certain movements, or if you don't have a strong posterior chain, it's going to severely hinder the form on whatever movement that you're practicing, whether it be something like a handstand push-up that you can see in this video right here, or if you're training for something like planche. For me, I've gotten up to a straddle planche, and I've noticed the stronger my glutes are, the better my straddle. The stronger my glutes are, the straighter my line. And this third exercise that you see right here is not a weighted exercise, but I include this exercise into my strength day because I eliminate the balance component to handstand push-ups. Normally when I do handstand push-ups, I'm either balancing on my hands, I'm either balancing on the gymnastics rings, or I'm either balancing on the parallettes. Now, if I really want to focus on pure strength, you take the movement to the wall, you focus on tempo and range of motion, and you bang out volume. So for me today, I did 4 sets of 5 repetitions on these wall handstand push-ups, these chest to wall handstand push-ups. One of the video clips I didn't record, but you know, believe me, I got 4 sets of 5 reps in. Really good work. You know, doing these chest to wall handstand push-ups really forces you to take your ego out of the movement. There's a huge element of ego when it comes down to calisthenics because, you know, calisthenics is a beautiful movement practice. And a lot of times we might be doing certain progressions, or we might, you know, do a certain movement because we want to post it on Instagram or YouTube or Reddit or whatever it may be. And, you know, when you do something like a chest to wall handstand push-up, or just a wall handstand push-up in general, it's not something that's flashy. It's not really something that's going to get a lot of views, but it is something that's going to build a lot of strength. And the next movement that you see here is honestly in the holy grail of lower body movements for me. This is a lateral lunge. I'm going to add some kettlebells, and I'm going to turn this into a Cossack squat. This is actually my favorite lower body movement. And the reason why is because how much this movement helps me as a runner, how much carryover this movement has, not only in other lower body training, but also into my calisthenics training. When you're doing something like a lateral lunge, Cossack squat, whatever you want to call it, you're engaging so many different muscle groups. Number one, you're working your glute medius. You're also working your quads heavily. Another underrated aspect of lateral lunges is the adductor strength that you get from this movement. And adductor strength is not only going to help you out on something like your squats, or something like a power clean, or something like a deadlift, but it's also going to be something that really helps you out when it comes down to endurance running or even sprinting. Now, as you guys notice, I'm not really loading up that much weight on my lower body movements right now. This is kind of my off season for strength in my lower body. During the winter time, I tend to go a lot heavier on all of these movements. Lateral lunges, I go heavier on my front squats, and I incorporate my power cleans, or incorporate my cleans into my lower body training. And this last movement here that I'm going to be doing for my lower body is going to be a good morning. And this is something I'm doing for my lower body, but also I'm doing this movement for my upper body as well. When I was talking about strengthening my posterior chain for calisthenics, that's exactly what this hinge movement does. So I've got 115 pounds on my back, not that much, but I'm doing it for repetitions of 10. So I'm getting posterior chain activation. This also is going to work your glutes, going to work your hamstrings, all important muscle groups for running long distances, all important muscle groups for sprinting, all important muscle groups for calisthenics, believe it or not. Another thing about my training split when it comes down to weightlifting is that in the off season of, kind of pure strength. I believe in periodization when it comes down to your training program. You shouldn't be doing the same exact thing year round. For me personally, during the summertime, that's when I go a lot lighter on weightlifting. And even I go lighter when it comes down to calisthenics as well. I don't tend to do as much weighted calisthenics. I do a lot of body weight training. And in the wintertime, I actually have 2 leg days per week opposed to just 1 leg day per week, as you see right here. One thing about training in general is that you kind of have to pick and choose your battles. You can do it all, but you can't do it all at once. You can have it all, but you can't have it all at once. A huge part of progressing when it comes down to training is training specificity. And if you're all over the place with your training and you're spreading yourself too thin with too many different exercises, more than likely you're not going to progress at any of them. So for me, I like to choose, 3 to 4 lower body movements that I want to focus on. When it comes down to calisthenics, I like to choose 2, maximum 3 movements that I'm working on at a time. And really, even when it comes down to the calisthenics movements that I'm working on, I usually have 1 main movement that I'm working on, and then I'll have a side quest. And this exercise right here is called a Zanetti press or a barbell planche press. And this movement is something that's actually helping out my side quest movement in calisthenics right now, which is the full planche. Right now, my main movement I'm working on in calisthenics is that reverse muscle up. But my side quest movement, which is something that I've been working on for quite some time, is the full planche. Full planche is just something that is an extremely difficult movement to master for somebody my size. I mean, it's an extremely difficult movement to master for somebody of anybody's size. But to be 6 feet tall, 195 pounds, it makes the movement substantially more difficult. So one thing I've noticed is that it really helps out to add these planche accessory exercises that really focus on pure strength, and also is something that's easy to track your progressive overload. That's one thing. I saw a video online that was talking about the problem with calisthenics. And one thing that the guy mentioned is that it's so much easier to track your progressive overload with using weights than it is with calisthenics. And I have to agree with this guy 100% on that. You can notice your strength increase when it comes down to calisthenics. You can see yourself get stronger over a longer period of time. But when it comes down to a week-to-week basis, it's really hard to track your progress when it comes down to calisthenics. Some weeks that you feel super strong, you'll hold a isometric movement for 5 seconds. Another week you feel extremely, lethargic, or you feel weak, or you feel heavy. You can't hold the movement at all. When it comes down to weightlifting, where your strength is at is pretty much where your strength is at. Now, you might have had a day where you didn't recover well and your strength is down a little bit, but usually your strength is pretty consistent when it comes down to lifting weights. Now, if you guys got something from this video, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel. Love to have you a part of the community. Also, if you guys are interested in online coaching, or if you guys are interested in learning through one of my programs, go ahead and go to my website, hybridathlete40.com. You guys can take the intake assessment, and either we'll set you up with a program, or if you are a good fit, we can go ahead and do some one-on-one coaching. Hope everybody's having a great day out there. I'll holler at you guys later. Peace.